You know what they say, long gospel, short homily, right? Oh, you guys crack me up. Anyway, but we'll make it worth your while, hopefully, because we do the A-cycle readings at this Mass because we have the elect who are doing their last scrutiny as they prepare for the Easter sacraments on the Easter Vigil. Would invite you to that ceremony if you've never been to it. The Easter Vigil, the culmination of the 3-day liturgy of the Church, the Triduum, the 3 days. It's a Latin word which means 3 days, and begins on Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and then culminating with the Easter Vigil, which was actually the original sunrise service. If I had my druthers, I would have the vigil begin at 4 in the morning, so we would end as the sun was rising. That's the way it's supposed to be done, and that's how they do it in monasteries, but, you know, we do what we can. We do it the night before. But it starts in the darkness and goes to light, and for good reason. But as we look at this, and I'm going to just touch on Ezekiel first to show you and to make a point, and then we're going to get into what's going on with Lazarus and Jesus and Martha and Mary and the crowd and the disciples. So much happening. But remember when I said to you before that all Old Testament prophecies are fulfilled in the person of Jesus Christ. So if anybody comes to you very well-meaning, perhaps from another Christian tradition, and says that, hey, this Old Testament prophecy is coming true in the present day, very gently inform them, very charitably, that no, actually, all Old Testament prophecies were fulfilled in the person of Jesus Christ. This one from Ezekiel is a perfect example of that. O my people, I will open your graves and have you rise from them and bring you back to the land of Israel. So what was going to herald the coming of the Messiah? The dead would be raised. This is a Messiah thing. This is a God thing. This is what people were looking for. So John presenting this to us as with the story of Lazarus is a fulfillment of this very prophecy. That's why the church reminds us of it today. And so because, remember, all Gospels are written for one reason and one reason only. They're not histories, although they are very historical, but they are theological statements which answer the one question, who is Jesus of Nazareth? And I could go into all kinds of things. I'll just hit a couple of things and I'm going to hit on one big thing. Okay, so there's a whole prelude to all of this. Lazarus is ill. Jesus waits around. Why? Jesus is waiting for Lazarus to die, apparently, so he can show them the glory of God. And the disciples really don't have a context, so they don't know what's going to happen. That's okay. But then there's this marvelous, and also the 4-day thing is part of the local culture at the time. It was the belief, as in many cultures, that the soul of the departed hangs around for about 3 days and then departs to, in this case, it would have gone to the underworld. And so the 4-day thing is significant. That means he's really, really, really dead, okay? So Jesus would have to bring his soul from the underworld to bring him back to life. So it's significant. That 4th day thing is very significant. That's when the body starts to corrupt too, by the way. So that's the whole, surely there'll be a stench. After 4 days in that climate, yeah. Anybody who's come across, something in the field, you know what I'm talking about. This marvelous encounter between Martha and Jesus. She runs out to him as Martha always does. But here is what's so significant for us as people of faith and as people of the resurrection. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even though, I look at her faith, even now, I know that God will give you what you ask of him. Look at her faith. Isn't this incredible? I want that kind of faith of Martha that kind of trusts God. Hey, life is really bad right now, but even now, I know that you, Lord, could figure it out for me. And then your brother will rise. Jesus means one thing. She goes theological on him right away, doesn't she? Oh yeah, on the last day. She's very much of that community that believes in the resurrection of the dead at the last day. So she says, yes, I know. She's showing him her theological hope. But then Jesus gives a lesson here, and this is the important part for us today. As Jesus says, I am the resurrection And this is important. One, he's not only appropriating the divine name, but whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live. And the one who lives and believes in me will never die. This last line, everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, I do. So we tend to think of the resurrection as something just like Martha, way out there. At the end of this life, at the end of the age, so we rest in peace, and at the end of the age, the resurrection is this reality that's way out there in the future. But if we listen to the reading, we understand what's going on. There is an immediacy to the resurrection. Where Christ is present, the resurrection is present. And so what we learn with the encounter in Lazarus is that it's not something way out there. Whoever lives and believes in me will never die. The resurrection begins now. Heaven begins now. As Paul says, if we die to Christ now, then every point from this point, every part of our life from this point forward is lived as people of the resurrection. And that is the good news. That unfolds in our life, of course, and we experience death and do all that. But as people of the resurrection now, it makes all the difference. And the key for us then, I think, and especially for those of you who are the elect, understand, please, that we are people of the resurrection now, and we begin to live that now. And if we understand that now, if we die to self, as Christ says, pick up our cross, follow him, then there's nothing this world can throw at us that can overwhelm us, is there? There really isn't. There really isn't. Now, let's move this a little slightly linguistically, because it gets fun at this point. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. And so where the head goes, the body follows, right? And if we are the body of Christ, then we must believe, because it is true, we are the resurrection now. Where the head has gone, the body follows. And we, as we live into and become more and more Christ-like in our lives, live the resurrection even now. We are. And so those who would come here and those who would meet us when we leave here would encounter the risen Christ. Fascinating stuff. This is really cool. And now let's skip right to the end, because then you see how it unfolds. Shortest verse in the Bible, by the way, Jesus wept. Okay, great. You can use that in Trivia Pursuit. The stench, we know about that. Lazarus is bound. This is done on purpose. One, because that's how they buried people. Two, it's a great image for us, isn't it? As long as we are bound by sin, we are sort of slaves to death, aren't we? But through baptism, confirmation, the Eucharist, life of grace, all the other sacraments, we are no longer bound. Amelia gets that this afternoon. This will be fun. You guys will get this at the Easter Vigil, and all of us with you, and all those entering the church. Untie him and let him go. The bonds of sin and the shackles of iniquity are taken from us, and we are free. Let us live that way. Let us live as people freed from sin. Let us live as people of the resurrection.